I've been rolling a very large this week, no, not this large, that large this week, as I've had not one, but two of these full-size premium luxury SUVs to drive and review. An interesting thing happened. Obviously, you know, cars usually bring people together and everybody loves to talk about cars, or almost everyone. And a neighbor of mine came by as I had a brand new 2022 Grand Wagoneer parked in front of the house, and this 2021 Mercedes AMG GLS63 parked in the driveway, and essentially pointed at the Grand Wagoneer and said, "Another massive SUV?" question mark. It was a very brief and simple question, but it absolutely meant a lot. My answer to that was, well, fairly simple, in fact. It is, fortunately, unfortunately, thanks to these vehicles that automakers, luxury automakers such as BMW, Infiniti, Mercedes-Benz, Stellantis, and everything else it has, and Ford and GM, it is with the sale of these vehicles and their full-size trucks. So, you know, you get an idea of the scale here. Everything that's big makes big money for automakers. And it is these vehicles that are funding the development for all of our future electrified vehicles that we will be driving, I promise you that, in the next 5 to 15 years. That's a little bit of a segue that's kind of weird, because this, as I just mentioned, isn't just any regular Mercedes AMG or Mercedes-Benz GLS. It's an AMG 63. And frankly, personally, myself, I've had a love affair with the Mercedes-Benz XGL, now GLS, since the very beginning. In fact, I'm celebrating 15 years of loving this SUV. It's actually been a player in my life on a couple of occasions, interestingly enough. So I've always had a soft spot for it. And when the opportunity to test drive an AMG 63 version of it, I had to jump at the occasion. But the funny thing is, I realized something now after spending 6 days almost with the 63, is that when you go all out with an SUV like this, you're doing it wrong. The idea behind a full-size 3-row mastodon is luxury, comfort, and refinement. So what I'm essentially saying is that, yes, I will talk to you about the GLS 63, but this isn't the version to get. If you want that cosseting, comforting, luxurious, premium feel, go for a 580. At least that's what I would do. And in the process, you get to save about $35,000. But let's not kid ourselves, right? Having 600 horsepower underfoot in a vehicle that weighs this much and is this big does kind of get to your head once in a while. Anyhow, we're going to do the usual little walk around. Actually, it's going to be a big walk around this time. And then we'll take it for a spin, because, well, if you're going to go AMG 63, it's the drive portion that really, really matters if you're to select this one out of the GLS family. Well, let's just jump right into styling. I mean, the Mercedes-Benz GLS as a whole looks fantastic. I love how, you know, it still looks massively powerful and strong and muscular, but still elegant and almost subdued in some respects. And this even applies to this GLS 63 from AMG. I have to say, however, that just so you know, this is the 3rd generation of the GLS, which was introduced for the 2020 model year. So it's barely even 2 years old. If I had to pick one, first generation came out in 06, 4, 07, I believe, and the second one came out in 13. It's actually the 2nd generation that I like the most, because it's kind of a blend between what's, you know, smooth lines and boxy squared out and angles, squared out lines and angles and boxy stuff that, well, essentially comes from the G-Wagon, the initial inspiration behind, well, any Benz SUV for that matter. But yeah, this is still a really, really handsome truck, no matter which way you look at it. Let's just jump into pricing now. In the US, base truck, the 450 is $76,000, the 580 is $98,850, and the 63 is $132,100. In Canada, a little bit different. $101,900 for the base 450. Part of that is explained by the fact that our base 450 has more equipment in Canada than in the US. The 580 is $125,900, twin turbocharged V8 still, and this one is $160,900. It would be silly to go through all of the standard features on this thing, and the video would be 3 days long. But suffice it to say that everything is included. I mean, MBUX is there, twin 12.3-inch displays, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, wireless charging, the 22-inch wheels you see here, which are phenomenal, and they're not even the prettiest ones. There's a hint here too. It's got the air suspension, which is currently set at the higher setting, just for fun. Why not? You also get the massively powerful V8, big brakes, and on and on and on. So essentially, like I said, it's all there. And to further support that, my tester, which would typically have, you know, a massive amount of options, only has a few options. In fact, there are few options available for the GLS63. I do have the second row captain seats, which I believe are a must. It's got an unbelievable steering wheel, which really kind of doesn't fit this truck, and it really messes with your mind. I'll show that to you in a moment. The tech package for the heads-up display and the MBUX interior assistant, grand total $163,400. That's it, only a couple grand worth of options. I know, I'm shocked too. All right, so obviously power hatch, soft closed doors, everything is included in that. What I do love about the power hatch is, look at it go. It really, really moves. All right, so I don't have all the details because Benz won't supply them, I suppose, for interior trunk volume. But behind the third row, 355 liters, which doesn't look like less than half of what the Grand Wagoneer offers, which is supposed to be about 800. So I believe 355. Now, if you were to go behind the first row, you're looking at 2,400 liters of boot space. Now, behind the second row, well, that's a number I don't have, but I'm going to guesstimate about 1,400 liters of trunk space. Now, if you compare that to the Grand Wagoneer, just for fun, 2,000 liters of trunk space behind the second row on the Grand Wagoneer. So you're kind of starting to get an idea that the Grand Wagoneer is, well, the massive 3-row SUV. Oh, just for fun. I just love this. I think you kind of saw that. Okay, so it's still a big SUV, obviously. So with the captain's seats, I mean, kids have all the room they could possibly want. Admittedly though, right here, the second row is pushed all the way forward so that we can show, and I could access the third row. You do sit a little bit square, so it isn't totally uncomfortable, but it's not exactly an area an adult would want to spend too much time in. Again, the Grand Wagoneer has a lot more room back there. But still, I mean, the captain's seats are superb. These are comfortable. They are, yes, power operated and heated. That's right. Go, go, go. Yes. Look, as always, this is a Mercedes Benz, so there's the quality, the fit and finish, the cross stitching, the details, everything is just beautiful. This Burmeister, whatever, audio system is standard. There is an optional super duper mega version of that too, which this one doesn't have. And what I do like, it's the plastic. It actually looks cheapish, but the texture is nicer than what it looks like. It's kind of cool. I like that. All right, this is a good shot. Oh, for some reason I just remembered AMG exhaust on this thing. Obviously, the tailpipes. If you scroll back, you'll see them. Anyway, 2 times a 12.3-inch display merged into one. It looks fantastic. Let's just slide aboard. Oh, well, here are the seats. Almost skipped over that. The bolstering is massive. I mean, I can stick almost my entire hand in there. They will hold you in place while the truck tries to keep everything in place too. All right, so let's start her up. Unfortunately, because the GLS is warm, we won't hear a cold start. But, well, I suppose while we're down here. So your drive modes are right here. All right, so individual, I have it set, obviously, slippery trail, sand. Oh, go back in the opposite direction. Comfort and Sport Plus. In my book, individual is always the best. I'll talk to you about that in a few moments again. Navigation obviously is included. These are the important buttons. Yes, the transmission, ESP, I think I mentioned the suspension was in the higher settings, so you have the high and the medium and the low. The dampers, and there's the performance exhaust, and yes, it is on because that's the way it's supposed to be. The interior assistant actually almost works because I haven't created a profile and I'm not connected to anything, so it's not responding to my questions, but even so, I know it works well because I've tried it in other vehicles. What I do like is that you do have the touchscreen feature and you can always tango with the system via the pad there. Love the gauges, they're just beautiful. The layout is superb, and here you can see the head-up display, which I love this configuration with the tachometer. Just a quick word on visibility. I mean, the truck is big, you're up high, but you know, the blind spots on the ends of the A-pillars are huge. Not quite as big as a Grand Wagoneer, but still pretty huge. Now, I don't know if this is gonna work. I'm gonna try. But this is that steering wheel, which looks like it's lifted right out of a CLA 45 AMG, which is kind of nuts. It messes, at least with my mind, when I'm driving this thing. Anyhow, so let's just go right ahead and do that now. It's a missed opportunity on behalf of Stellantis for the Grand Wagoneer, at least in my opinion. But hey, to each his own. I think I can jump right into what I think is one of the principal reasons why anyone buys or leases a full-size premium luxury SUV. And that is comfort, refinement. I went through the whole gambit of adjectives to describe, you know, what these trucks are supposed to be. And the coincidence is fantastic that I had this truck and the Grand Wagoneer at the same time, because it did put a lot of things into perspective. I mean, nothing will shine a light on disparities or differences more than a direct one-to-one comparison. The GLS is extremely comfortable, ultra smooth. I mean, with the AMG active ride control and the adaptive dampers, the air suspension and all that, the ride quality is really, really good. I mean, only over the sharpest surfaces do you feel something filter into the cabin and up your butt and up your spine, and even through the steering wheel on occasion. However good that is, and I'm in comfort mode, by the way. I just reset it. I went back into comfort mode. The Grand Wagoneer is, I think, just a little bit smoother and a little bit more isolated or insulated from the world and the road. But even so, I mean, we're talking, you know, this is where all these trucks are pretty much, including the Escalade and the Yukon, the Navigator, the X7 from BMW, and all that. I guess I'll just jump into the steering wheel right now, because this wheel, although I am sitting high, I do get the impression that I'm driving something so much smaller. And somehow this is working with my small brain, where when I tug at the wheel, the massive GLS, which is like 5.25 meters long, or about 20 centimeters shorter than the Grand Wagoneer, by the way, it responds really quickly. And the truck feels like it's far more agile than its size would indicate. I think it's unbelievable. And when I got into the Grand Wagoneer, it wasn't exactly like that. Yeah, the steering wheel is like out of a AMG CLA 45. It's completely insane. And the steering feels nice. I mean, the weight builds up gradually. It's not entirely sporty. And I mean, I know I'm not driving very fast right now. Even in Sport Plus, I mean, yes, it does weigh up, but it's not, I'm not quite comfortable saying that it's very sporty anyhow. But then, you know, the size of the truck, this is a 6,000 pound or nearly truck. At least with my butt in it, it goes over that mark. But you would never really be able to tell, given how still quiet it is. I'm going to go into my individual mode, which I have the powertrain set, the engine set to sport. The transmission is in drive, and I do have everything else in basic or comfort, with the exception of the exhaust, which is in powerful. And well, speaking of power, look, the 580 has the same twin turbocharged 4-liter V8 with EQ boost. And it produces, 483 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. I don't remember the exact number from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, but it's something along the lines of 5.5 seconds at the absolute most. And when you step into this beast, well, AMG just tweaked the output of the V8. It's more complicated than that, but anyhow, to 603 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque from like 2250, 100 RPM, all the way up to 5,000 if I'm not mistaken. Which means that this massive truck will do 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in only 4.2 seconds, which is essentially breaking the laws of physics. And then the truck will also tow up to 7,500 pounds, so that's 2,300 pounds less than the Grand Wagoneer, but at that point, it doesn't entirely matter, I think. Look, the bottom line is that this is a rocket. The torque is just phenomenal, and I mean, AMG can make a V8 and a 4-cylinder, I mean, even a V6 or a straight 6 for that matter, sound unbelievably good. But the V8, look. It's almost wrong. It's almost completely wrong. Traffic just comes flying at you in nanoseconds. Well, before I get arrested, I'm going to get off the highway. Look, that's it. But that extra power and the brakes and all of that, which are fabulous, obviously. I get why it's $35,000 more than the 580, but I can't see really wanting to spend $35,000 more. I'd rather get a few extra options, such as, special order those 23-inch monoblock wheels for my 580. Thing is that there aren't that many players in the, super 3-row premium luxury SUV segment. And here, one of my favorite semi-long curves. It's incredible how the AMG ride, the adaptive dampers and all that really keep the truck almost flat. You can feel the rear end squat a little bit, but the front end stays level even when you're on the throttle a little earlier than you normally would in a vehicle like this. What I was about to say is that with the exception of the XB7, which I hope to drive a little bit later this summer, possibly early fall, there aren't many massive power players in the segment. That may all change if Stellantis puts a Hellcat engine in the Grand Wagoneer, which absolutely they should. But if you want to play in that superpower, rarefied air segment, niche segment between this and the XB7, I don't know, they're about equal in my mind. If you want just a large SUV and you want the comfort and the refinement, I don't know, the Grand Wagoneer came out of nowhere and pretty much picked up all the honors, but the GLS remains, well, first of all, the favorite in Canada in the segment, and a very, very close second choice, depending on color options, maybe a first choice. Yeah, it really is that fickle a decision.